right, LEGO lovers, this episode's for you. These are all the parts and pieces of your standard AR-15 lower parts kit. You can swap them out to improve functionality. You can swap them out to improve performance. You can swap them out to make the thing look sexier. But by the time that we're done today, you'll be able to ID every spring, every detent, every component, what it's for, where it goes, and as best as we can show, how it goes in there. So let's go. Hey guys, Randy here with AT3 Tactical, talking today about your safeties, about your mag and bolt catches, about your pivot and takedown pins, and your buffer retainer. Right up front, you can either get these things in a kit, you can piecemeal parts together, kind of a la carte style, but these aren't just for building a new rifle. There's real benefits and improvements that you can get from swapping out one or more of these, not only for your AR, but the way that you function with it. So if you're not sure what you're looking for that throw degree of your safety selector, or if you need that extended boulder magazine catch, then stick around because it's time to talk lower parts. There's also some little tips and tricks for most of these parts that'll leave hair in your head throughout the process. So we'll also do our best to walk through those tips within some of the limitations for what we can show. That said, let's start with the buffer retainer and spring. All right, this one's easy. There's two parts, your buffer retainer and the spring. It's pretty obvious how this one works. We all know it can be a bear to sometimes sneak that buffer weight past the retainer, but that's its only job, to keep the buffer from pushing your BCG any further or harder than it needs to complete the cycle. As for the spring though, it's typically around 0.975 inches long. It's wider and more loosely coiled than like the mag catch spring here. So when you're picking it out of the kit, look for that one. All right, here's a little tip about this guy in keeping it from flying across the room when you're working on or around your buffer tube. If you don't intend to fully remove your buffer, like what you can do when you're working on your takedown pin, after you loosen your castle nut and just before you pull back the end plate from the lower, give your buffer a small quarter turn clockwise to make sure that sucker stays seated. Another easy-ish one is that standard mil-spec mag catch. There's only three parts to this one. You have the mag release button, you have the mag catch spring, and you have the actual mag catch. So on the mag catch, you see there's a little raised surface here. This is what catches and secures your magazine. All AR-15 magazines have that matching female cutout on them. As far as options go for your mag catch and your mag release, all sorts of sizes and textures for your mag release button. You'll find it in steel, aluminum, oversized, enhanced, or extended, like Magpul's enhanced release. It allows me to more easily reach and manipulate with my short trigger finger guy here. So on the other side, there's tons of color, there's designs, there's options for the mag catch bar. But most interesting has to be these ambi mag release buttons, where, as you can see, it functions like your standard mag catch with the button on one side, but on the other side, there's actually a hinge button here that also can release the mag. All right, install tips for this bad boy right here. One, put your mag catch in before your bolt catch. So that way you have max room for tip number two, and that is to use a punch to push the mag button as far as physically possible, and then just twist the catch with your finger. The good old safety selector is next. Fun switch if you have the VIP version, but there's really only three parts. Safety selector, the safety detent, that's the one with the flat bottom, and the safety spring, which is about 0.98 inches long. It's really stiff, and it looks pretty different from the other two pivot pin springs. So that spring pushes the detent hard into the saddle that holds it in place. When you flip the safety, the detent jumps the saddle and then lands on the other side. This is where you get that tactile and audible click from. As for engaging the trigger assembly, the rear of the trigger is locked by the half moon shape when engaged, and then it rotates out of the way when in the fire position to give your trigger just enough room to function. All right, now this is where you're going to hear that topic of throw in your safety selector. That's almost always going to be a full 90 degrees, especially mil-spec. It needs a full 90 degrees of travel to fully disengage the trigger. You're also going to see some of the shorter ones out there, 45 degrees probably being the most popular. That only needs half the distance before it disengages. Most popular is that Radian Talon Safety 45-95. Look at the difference of the saddles on each side. The normal 90 is kind of what we just saw, but the other one, the 45, is half the distance. Question is there a benefit to a shorter throw? Yeah, maybe slightly faster target engagement if that's what you're after. For me, I've flipped M4 90s for decades, so a shorter throw, it feels different, but I actually prefer it. All right, so we can't walk out of here without talking about ambi safety selectors. They're specialized for lefties, also beneficial for righties too. Most of us here in the warehouse, probably a lot of you shooters out there, prefer the ambi selector specifically for me because I can actually manipulate it with my knuckle on my trigger finger. So in the back of my mind, I know nothing is touching the trigger as I transition. So just be mindful of how big your selector levers are though. Because if I didn't have the Radian Talon here that comes with a short side and a long side, my trigger finger would be right in the way and probably uncomfortable after a while of holding it there. So something to consider. All right, I got a quick safety selector install tip for you also. The grip has to come off. You flip it upside down so you don't lose the detent. The spring pushes the flat side of the tent, so make sure you put it in right. And then the spring goes in the grip when you're installing it. All right, onto the bolt catch and the release. This one has 4 parts. The bolt catch, the plunger, the wider spring, which is just under 4/10 of an inch, and a roll pin to hold the whole thing together. When it's assembled, it catches the bolt after the last round because the follower on your magazine pushed the catch upward, which depresses the plunger, and your bolt, it runs into a roadblock. When you release the bolt catch, it lets go of the bolt and then the buffer spring slams the whole thing home. Just like the mag catch, these come in a variety of different paddle sizes, textures. Some come with dual paddles for releasing and locking the bolt easier. Outside of that, you have extended releases or the Magpul battery assist device. It allows you to manipulate the bolt catch with your trigger finger instead of this long distance thumb reach with my non-dominant hand. I will say though, adding one of these extended releases, it does start filling up that trigger well space pretty quick. So gloved fingers, meaty finger guys, you might want to try this one first. We do have a bolt catch install tip here. The roll pin angle makes it really easy to accidentally scuff up your lower. So if you're worried about it, a little masking tape's a good idea. Otherwise, you can also seek out a lower that has a threaded bolt catch. You might find a gunsmith who would tap and die it for you, or you can find tools that actually work in your favor, like some of the ones from Real Avid. All right, just like that, we're down to the pivot pins, the takedown pins. They each get the same spring, just a touch over an inch long, and the same double-ended detent, but the pivot pin will almost always be the longer of the two. You could almost say always. And it has the more robust pin head with a flat side that seats right up against the lower. Hey, just like the rest, here's another area, your pivot pins, your takedown pins, where there's a flood of different colors, designs, features, material types. Real question is, are you getting any sort of increased performance or functionality from swapping out your pivot pin or takedown pin? Probably 9 times out of 10, if someone were swapping theirs out, it's for aesthetics like color matching, maybe a unique pinhead design. Other than that, yes, there are ultra lightweight titanium and some aluminum pins. Keep in mind, these 2 pins are the only 2 secure points of contact between your upper and lower, which means there is a lot of force stressing those 2 points. Some folks report having pins fail depending on the material for those, from those stressors, but that's just something that I hope that we actually can test for ourselves down the road. Actually, to that point, there are specialized tools, again, to solve the problem of pins flying, like your pivot pin tool from Real Avid. This little guy keeps it all together for you. It's not terribly expensive, but you don't have a flying spring. All right, so $1 million question here. Are all AR-15 parts, or the lower parts anyway, cross-compatible with receivers? You'll probably hear some fringe cases where they don't, particularly triggers, safeties, some of your billet lowers. But honestly, more than 80% of the time, that bolt catch that you like, that pink ambi safety that you have to have, or the extended mag catch that you need for your stubby fingers, they're gonna fit. They're gonna fit without issues. Magazines, however, the actual Freedom Seat holder, those guys, they get a little tricky now and then for reliability and fitment, but we talk about that and a whole lot more in the next episode right over here. So give it a look